This meeting is being recorded.
It doesn't usually count out loud. It usually just pops.
Yeah, usually it just says you're going to be recorded. Well, anyway, all right, the recording is started, so we'll get started now. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is another one in these series of tips and tricks with Cinder. Cinder is the OPH trainer who has helped out many fosters and adopters, and we try to do these calls about monthly with some content and opportunity for questions and answers. So, Cinder, I will turn it over to you to talk about our topic today, success with a newly adopted or new foster dog.
Yes. Yeah, so for everybody who is taking in a new foster dog or who has recently adopted a dog or is planning to adopt a dog, we'll have some tips and tricks. And please feel free to ask questions anytime. You know, it's not going to throw me off in presenting. So I'm happy to answer questions. What I really want to do is answer any questions that you have. So we will go ahead and get started. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat or you can just ask. I don't know if I don't think I can see everybody if you raise your little hand thing, but.
Yeah, and I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep an eye out, Cinder, for questions so you can just focus on it.
All right, well, let's go to the first slide.
See if I can. Every single call, it takes me a minute or two to get the
Zoom. It's Zoom live.
There we go. There you go.
All right. So it's really, really important that your dog have a chance to decompress. Whether they're coming from another foster, whether they're coming from a foster where they've only been for a couple of days and coming from the shelter prior to that, all of them need a chance to get into the household, get comfortable, kind of get the lay of the land, learn what some of the rules are, get comfortable with all of their new roommates and family. And it's really, really, I can't stress enough that they just need to hang out and lounge and be in the house. So we want to make a safe space for them in the home, a place where they can go and retreat. And if they don't want to be around everybody or around the kids or around the other animals, and they just need some downtime, they can retreat there and know that they won't be harassed. It gives them a chance to just rest and get comfortable with the smells and the environment, the new environment, because it's all new to them. It's, you know, new family, new roommates, new pets, new household, new space. Everything is new and different, and they may have just had a big transition moving from the shelter to the foster. So then moving from the foster to a home is also really hard. You want to set up a space either, you know, in a sort of out of the way area, not right in front of the front door, probably not in the kitchen because that's usually where everyone's really busy all the time, but in a bedroom or, you know, in a space that's kind of away from super high traffic areas. And you're going to want a crate that you can leave the door open on when they may want to just go in and out. And you can also use a room with a baby gate. You can put the crate in the room with the baby gate up. You want to have a bed or a cot in their living space, somewhere for them to have a lay down space that's comfortable. And, you know, some dogs will shred a bed if you put it in. So you can start with some old towels or something else and see what their response is to having soft beds. But you do want to give them a soft place to lay. And if they just continuously shred it, then you can move to something that's a little more sturdy, like a Kuranda cot that they may not shred. They can go for leash walks for the first couple of weeks. You can tether them to yourself, or you can tether them to a piece of furniture near where you are so that you can just kind of go back and forth with each other. You know, you're here, I'm here, we're hanging out, we're watching TV. I'll give you a treat for laying down calmly next to me. And just think about this as like your first few dates. This is when you're really getting to know each other and getting to know each other's habits, getting to know what you like and what they like. You know, you feel, I'm sure, that you're kind of at sea about the whole situation. So like, oh my gosh, I have this new animal in the house and I don't really know anything about them. And they feel the same. So it's really important to give yourselves time to get to know each other. Right. And let's go to the next slide. And there are games that you can play and things that you can do. Don't feel like you can't do anything with your dog when you first bring them home. You do want to give them loads of downtime, lots of rest, and you don't want to have a party and have everybody come and meet the new pet. You don't want to take them places outside of the house other than like for a walk. You don't want to go to the dog park or the pet store or anything like that. But you can do all of these fun things. You can make puzzles for them. You can buy puzzle toys where you can put the food inside the puzzle and they have to lift the pieces off or find things. You can make puzzles like in the picture here with tennis balls and a muffin tin, and put some treats under there and help give them some time to find it. You can hide things around the house, play hide and seek with the dog, and hide yourself and call them and have them find you. You can play all sorts of, you can make all sorts of homemade puzzles. You can use Amazon boxes, which I'm sure all of us have plenty of, paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls, paper lunch bags. The cardboard egg cartons are great to put stuff in and let them kind of shred it, play with it. You can make them all of these things for when they're in the crate or when you're just hanging around and you want to give them something to do that's not too crazy and wild in the house. There are all kinds of, so with the Kongs, I use them a lot to feed meals. The Kong wobbler is like a big giant Kong with a heavy bottom that wobbles back and forth and they have to push it and pop the food out. But I also take a lot of Kongs and put a little bit of peanut butter or a little bit of yogurt, maybe some banana, some kibble, maybe some chicken broth, and freeze them in the freezer. And then you can take out a frozen one, give it to them. The stuff inside lasts a lot longer and it keeps them busy or when you're trying to just have dinner or watch a movie or for a few minutes.
Hey, Cinder,
Uh-huh.
do you have anything close to your mic, like papers or, because there's a lot of noise we're picking up and everyone else is muted but you. Are you scuffling anything around near your?
No, I don't think so. I think it's probably
Okay.
the bird.
Okay, just carry on. I just, sometimes people are doing something, close to the mic and it picks up the sound.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
She is making some noise over there. So she's like plucking the wires of her cage and saying pew, pew, pew. And just generally giving me a hard time because she's bored and wants to be out here.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, you can play hide the treat. You can play hide the family members. We can look at the next slide. And you can play ball and fetch and any kind of toy play. If you have any kind of toys that the dog likes, it's great to have toys, soft toys, squeaky toys, tuggy toys. You can play which hand, where you put a treat in one hand and you let the dog pick. That's always fun. And it's just, these are all just kinds of ways to keep the dog busy, have some fun with them, and start building your relationship with them. You can teach a hand target. Some people use their palm. I usually use 2 fingers because I don't want the dog thinking that I'm asking them to target all the time when my hand is open. So I just use 2 fingers and I teach them to touch it with their nose and start by having it really close to the nose, and they will, if you just put your hand out, they'll go, oh, what you doing? And touch it with their nose. Then you can either use a clicker or you can use a marker word and treat. Oh my. This is a great time to work on teaching your dog their name. If you have changed their name, this is really a good time to teach them their new name. So you can play a lot of name games. If you have more than one person in the household, you can practice calling the dog between you with the dog's name and giving a treat when they get there. You can just say their name and give a treat, say the name and give a treat. You can treat them for looking at you and making contact. Then when you are out walking on a leash, when they look at you, you can treat and they will stay closer and check in with you instead of pulling and running off. So it's a great way to practice getting them ready for loose leash walking. You can do consent tests for petting and grooming. So when you're getting them comfortable with being handled, especially for things like grooming, brushing, nail trimming, you're gonna touch a couple of times, pet a couple times, or brush a couple times, and then stop and see if they leave and are like, oh no, this is terrible. Then you're gonna wanna start working with some treats and working with the grooming. If they come right back and really want you to do that, then go for it. Give them some brushing, give them some petting. That's a really good way to start with that. A lot of animals have a lot of trouble with grooming and just aren't comfortable with it. So seeing first if they like it and then working on getting more and more comfortable. You can work on easy leashing and collar grabbing. I called it collar reaching here because I don't want you grabbing their collar, but what we want to do is get them comfortable with you reaching to the side of their face or under their neck and holding onto the collar, just because when you're out and you call them to you, you want them to come to you and you want to be able to clip their leash on. A lot of dogs, especially at the dog park or in the yard, if they don't want to leave, they will run, run, run. You call them to you, they'll come running up, but as soon as you reach for them, they take off. So we want to practice, grab the collar, give a treat. Grab the collar, give a treat. And then they're much more comfortable with that. Most dogs don't like having your hands reaching over their heads. It's uncomfortable for them, it's threatening. So the more you can get them comfortable with that, the better. So reach, treat, reach, treat. And that way, when people want to pet your dog, and they always want to pet them on top of the head, and dogs don't love that, but we can teach them to be it. So if they do, if someone does pet them on the head, they'll be like, okay, well, maybe this is predictive of a treat coming. You can do all kinds of scent enrichment and nose games. You can buy all sorts of, if you're a hunter, you probably don't think it's weird, but there are all kinds of scent lures that you can buy, like coyote and rabbit, fox, doe, and you can also use lavender or vanilla, but you don't want to use, there are a couple things that you probably don't want to use, like peppermint, but there are a few different scents, and just check, look online and see if they're safe for dogs, but we know that lavender and vanilla are fine. And all the animal scents are fine. You can just put a drop on a tissue. You can hide it in a box or in one of the puzzle toys, or you can put a couple drops in a spray bottle of water and spray a bandana or a rag or one of the toys, like a fleece tug toy, and they may really enjoy that. Particularly the houndy type dogs really do tend to enjoy the scent enrichment a lot. And lavender can kind of help calm them down at some point too. All right, next slide, please. And interactions. So during these first couple of weeks, you can do leash walks. We don't want to do a lot of meeting and greeting of strangers and strange dogs, because this dog is still kind of a stranger to you, and you're kind of a stranger to them. So they don't know that you have got it taken care of. They don't know that they can trust you to back them up, take care of them. So they may be a little more pushy, a little more defensive than they will be once they're comfortable in the home. Oh, hang on one moment, please. Go see what's beeping.
We're all wondering what was beeping. Microwave, alarm clock, smoke, smoke alarm.
It's a false alarm.
I was trying to think what.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. Oh, now the bird's beeping. Of course.
Right.
So we want to keep our greetings of strangers and new dogs to a minimum. If you have a really good friend who you know has a really great dog, friendly dog, then you can, meet up at some point. But I would meet in a neutral place like the park. And I probably would wait until maybe week 3 before you start doing that stuff. And sniffy walks. So this is a walk specifically for your dog. Sniffing is a really tiring activity for dogs, interestingly. It's probably more tiring than the walking part. So if you go out somewhere and just let them sniff around, smell the sidewalk, smell the grass, the bushes, the trees, and it will probably be a fairly short walk distance-wise, but it may take a lot of time. And it's really important for them to get to do this once in a while. They really do enjoy it, and it does seem to calm them down quite a bit. And they get a lot of information about the neighborhood so they can get more comfortable in their neighborhood. This is a great time to work on your training for potty. If you're working on house training stuff and you would like them to be in a specific area of the yard where they go, because it's easier to clean up that way, take them out on the leash several times every day to that space, tell them to go potty and just stand there and wait. Give them about 10 minutes. If they pick a spot and go, have a little party. Tell them they're doing a great job. Give them some treats. You can let them off leash if you're in a yard. And if not, then, just tell them how great they are and bounce around and play a little bit, and then you can go back in. This is a great time for time together, kind of hanging out in the yard, either on a long line or in a fenced yard. Just let them sniff around and you just hang out with them. You can sit in a chair, you can read a book, whatever you want to be doing, and just kind of let them do their thing outside. It's starting to get cold, so none of us really want to do that right now, but if it's cold where you are. And for TV time or family time, if you have like game night or your family watches a movie on Fridays or whatever, you can put the dog's mat down on the floor, their little bed. You can put it right next to the couch, and you can tether their leash to the couch legs so you don't have to keep getting up and seeing what they're up to. You can treat them for being really good on their mat. You can give them something to chew, like a chewy bone or a bully stick, or a braided bully stick, something that'll take them a little while, and just have them hang out with the family with not a ton of interaction, just practicing being in the home. And downtime, it's really important. The average adult dog sleeps 10 to 14 hours a day. So, and that's a healthy, normal dog. So they really do need their sleepy time, especially when things are slightly stressful, when things are new, and when they're still adjusting. So you can give them, frozen stuffed Kongs, chewies, scent enrichment, all of those kinds of things. You can give them in their crate or their safe space or their room, or even, if you're working from home or something, you can tether them next to you in your office space and just give them something to chew on, let them rest while you do your thing. And next slide. All right. And when we get to 3 weeks, that's usually about the time that the honeymoon is over. Everybody's starting to get comfortable with each other in the home. You will see the things that you may not have seen before. You will see some different behaviors emerge. Some dogs will be a lot bolder. Some dogs will be maybe a little more fearful. Some dogs you just might see behavior that you didn't see before. They might start playing more. They might start being a little more clingy because they realize that you're their person and they're staying with you. And you'll get to have a little bit better understanding of the dog's personality. You might see different activity levels. Some dogs who've been really subdued and quiet and tentative in the home might turn into bouncy, crazy, playful goofballs. And you might not see a whole lot of different things. You might just have a little more insight. And that's fine too, but a lot of dogs, I think you'll see some new behavior emerge that you hadn't seen before. And this is a good time to start with controlled meet and greets. With controlled meet and greets, both with people and with dogs. You don't want to just have a party and have everyone come over. They're still new to the home. It's still a lot. And so I would introduce friends, like a couple at a time, 1, 2, maybe, not a whole dinner party full. And if you do have a party coming up or you do have a big event coming up, you can put the dog in their safe space. They don't have to participate. Everyone will want them to, but you can say, she needs some downtime, or he's really tired, or, he's a little overwhelmed. And you could even introduce guests one at a time if you do have people over too. But I would control your meet and greets. And in neutral spaces with dogs that you already know well and that get along with other dogs. You can go to the park, you can go to a dog park, but I would not go to a dog park full of dogs right away. I would see how they react and respond with 1 or 2 dog friends at a time. You can also start introducing people to them in your home, in your yard, and start introducing dogs to them in your home and in your yard. And then you can set up some play dates with your known dog friends and with your friends or family members, and let them play with other dogs and keep those social skills rolling. And all right, and the next slide. Okay, you can start with car rides and park visits. I would start with short rides around the neighborhood and end up in different places. Sometimes end up at the park, sometimes end up at the pet store, sometimes you might end up at the groomer or the vet. Don't always end up somewhere where something unpleasant is going to happen. Don't associate riding in the car with something bad happening. So if you are going to take them, you could take them to the vet for a happy visit. Drive around the neighborhood, go to the vet, have the receptionist feed them a dog biscuit and leave. And that's a great way to associate the vet with good things. But you want to make car rides comfortable and fun for them. And if you notice any kind of car sickness or anything, deal with that, without taking a long trip first. And now's a good time to start with formal training classes if you choose to do that. And these are all places that you could find a good trainer. And you can also do, any kind of training classes. You can do agility, you could do tricks, you can do all of that. And start, working with your dog and keep going. And then the next slide, please. And at 3 months, they may show some behavior changes again as they feel fully at home. They may not be as fast to come when called or be clingy, and they may show a lot more exploratory behavior because they know that they're home and they know that you're there, and they don't feel as compelled to cling to you and stick to you to make they may also show a lot more calm behavior They may not be quite as anxious. They may not worry when you leave. You know, they might be like, okay, great, bye. I'll see you when you get home from work. and more used to the routine of the household and feel more comfortable at home. Right. Next slide. And if you have a puppy, at 3 months, you're moving into adolescence with that puppy because they're probably going to be about 5, 6, 7 months old. Adolescence in all species is a time for testing boundaries and pushing their limits and trying everything new. They forget everything that you have taught them with training. The good news is that it comes back if you keep working on it. And adolescent dogs need as much sleep as puppies. So that's 16 to 18 hours a day. Adolescent dogs are difficult. And I'm not going to lie about it. They're difficult. There's a lot of challenges. They can test boundaries a lot. And you'll ask them to do something and they'll look at you like they've never heard those words before. And you'll think, what is wrong with this dog? I know this dog knows this. Well, they'll know it again. Just keep working on it and be patient. And they do live through adolescence, and then it's over, and then they're great dogs. So just remember that the end will come of adolescence. But yeah, at 3 months in, if you've taken home a new puppy and they've been perfect, and then they get to 6.5, 7.5 months, and you're like, oh my puppy is possessed of demons. What has happened? That's what's happened. So don't panic. All will be well. And all right, the next slide. Okay, and if your dogs are turning 18 to 24 months old, then they're reaching social maturity. And a lot of them will be, and even if you just took in a foster who is at that age, just a little post-adolescent, they may start to become more dog selective. And a lot of them do not want to play as much with other dogs or with a lot of other dogs. They may have 1 or 2 friends that they like to play with occasionally. Some dogs will become more territorial in your home and around the house, the yard, sometimes even their space in the house. So that's pretty normal. And you can definitely work with that. If you're having those issues, ask, just email training and we will deal with that. It's not a terrible problem. It's just normal adult dog behavior. So we can work through that with you. And they still sleep about 14 hours a day. So their dogs are excellent at sleeping. They're like the Olympic sleepers. And let's see, I think the next slide. Yeah, and that just is your next steps of things to do. So you'll want to continue to reinforce the behaviors that you want and find alternatives for behaviors that you don't want. You don't need to treat every single good behavior, but do treat occasionally. When your dog does something that you really like, don't forget to catch them and treat them for doing the things that you like. And then continue your formal training or your games, your relationship building with your dog. And then move right out into the world. Okay. Now, do we have any questions about any of this or anything else about bringing a new animal into the home?
Yeah, feel free to put them in the chat, or since our group is small, you can ask directly too. I'll just, I'll note something, Cinder, that I've seen is that you noted that a couple weeks in, you may start to see some changes. They could get more mellow or more this or that. And the thing I've seen most common, I mean, I don't make it sound common, but I definitely see dogs who seem really chill at first, and they start to feel like I have something that's mine now, and they get a little more protective. Now, it can be dealt with, but sometimes people are surprised, I think, myself included, when this dog who was like, oh, I love everyone, and suddenly it's like, this is mine, and a little more protective of like the yard. And so I think it's helpful for people to know that that can happen. It's usually manageable, right? But it's actually, when you think about it, they had nothing, now they have something, and they want it to remain theirs.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, and they realize, oh, well, I'm staying, and now this is my house, and these are my things, and I care more about defending them and making sure that I can hang on to my stuff.
Right. Or actually, more commonly, I see it as my people. They want to protect this is my person. And it just means maybe a little more suspicion of something in the street, or so you think, oh, they should get less fearful and be more comfortable. But sometimes they're more like, hey, this is mine and my person, don't mess with my person. And so, it's coming from a good motive, so to speak. But
I mean, they're just trying to do their job as the dog. So they want to take care of you.
I wanted to just point out that decompression is also a great tool to use as a reset piece. If you have a dog that's been through something very stressful, even if they've been in your home for 5 years, sometimes you just have to start over. And a lot of times it won't take as long, but it can be helpful. I just got Annie in the house. So Annie's a feral dog that I've been working with for 5 years. She's laying on her bed right here. It was not easy though. And it hasn't been. And that's because we had her coming in every night for about 3 months. And then there were some disruptions. My son moved in for a couple months, and then we watched my daughter's puppy for a week, and she hated the puppy. So we had the puppy for a couple weeks, and now we're recovering from that. But it's taken everything I can to get her inside. Just kind of interesting to see how, stress, causes dogs to regress sometimes.
Yeah, change is really hard, and they really do love routine, and they're a lot more comfortable with a regular routine if that's possible for them. So, and puppies, I mean, nobody likes puppies. Grown-up dogs are like, ew, puppies. There are some excellent grown-up dogs that love puppies, but I'd say the vast majority of adult dogs are like, no thanks. Too rowdy, too crazy.
Yeah. So Cinder, we have two questions. Very interesting. I'm going to read the second one first because it builds right on what you said, but we will get back to the first one in a minute. From Lisa, any hints for decompression with existing dogs in the house?
So decompression for the new dog coming into the house, or decompression for the dogs that are already resident dogs?
Lisa, do you want to go?
Yeah,
go ahead,
for
Lisa.
the new dog. Like if there's already, a level of excitement in the house with existing dogs, any hints for the new dog coming in?
So if there's a way that you can separate them and have the new dog in a space of its own, where it can just have some downtime, calm time, and then, if they need, I mean, we probably want to keep them separated for about a week at least, and possibly 2 weeks. But if they need to meet each other sooner than that, I would say meet short sessions and then decompressing dog back to their decompression space until, just kind of gradually move them into the household.
Cinder, I want to just share, just because I've had to do I have a very kind of a sort of reactive personal dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a kind of a rapid, my methodology that the 1 to 2 weeks makes a lot of sense, but it is hard to do, especially if the dog thinks to eat, or so my super fast, but mostly effective is the first day completely separate. Occasionally let one of them in, take one outside, let the other one sniff around so they can smell the other dog and know they're there. Second day, gate, they can see each other through the gate. You kind of manage that and you read it. If they hate each other, then you go slow. Day 3, they still separate, but I walk them, like me and my husband will walk them, sort of side by side, or And usually by then they're sort of like, okay, you can
Yeah.
kind of see if they're all right. And then it's sort of let them be together some of the time. So that's
Yeah.
like my rapid. And so often, usually by day 4, they're okay together, though they still have a crate, or we do some, crating and
Right.
rotating. I just,
Right.
I found that has worked. And if at any point
Yeah.
it's not working, you can back it up. But I think it's,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great one.
yeah, it makes a world of difference. The dogs who will be friendly with new dogs soon, but they just don't know what's going on. So a couple
Right.
days, a day, to just like feel things out, I think people just don't realize. I didn't, as a new foster, I put dogs together way too fast because they seem friendly, and learned
Right.
that, and what I tell people, my anecdote is, if you had a new office mate and you like them, but you had to be with them 24/7, you never got a minute to like go to the bathroom, go eat things, make a phone call to an old friend, you'd be like,
Exactly.
okay, I like you, but get out of my space for a minute. Doesn't
Uh-huh.
mean you're not going to firm, but you can't, like, 24/7 is a lot for anybody, even with your best friend, right? So
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
that helps people realize, yeah, the dog is friendly, but they need a little bit of like, whoo,
Right.
just,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
mean-
really, it's really important, if I can just jump in. If you're doing if you're rapid, speeding up the meeting time, to really make sure you've studied what dog body language means. Because, like a dog, every dog is different. And you may have a dog on day 2 that is wagging their tail high and fast, and that's not necessarily a friendly wag. So just make sure if you're doing it, quicker than 2 weeks, that you understand dog body language, and you've looked at, some videos with different dog body language and what they mean.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say we shouldn't do 2 weeks. It's just, it almost never happens that people keep. I mean, just in the real world,
It's hard.
even with OPH fosters, most people don't actually keep them separate for 2 weeks, and
Right.
so maybe at least doing a couple days before. I mean, yeah, let's do 2 weeks, but when it's just not
Right.
going to happen.
But just ease in. Make sure that you ease in. Short stints at a time, and careful supervision.
A plan too, especially if you're by yourself. If I have dogs meeting in the yard, I have a few leashes strapped to the fence. So if I need to separate them and I'm by myself, I can take one over to one fence and hook them up, and then take one over to the other fence and hook them up. So I'm not just holding on to 2 dogs trying to keep them apart.
Right. Because that's no fun for anyone. That's not a position that you want to be in.
Yeah, I've seen adopters whose dogs love other dogs on walks and in dog parks, and don't realize it. For the dog, it's different when a new dog comes into their house. They'll probably be fine eventually, but the fact that they play with the dog at a dog park doesn't mean they want a new dog in their space playing with their toys on day 1. And people are like, but he's so friendly. It's like, give them some time, separate them, give them their own space. Do you want to share all your stuff with your new roommate immediately? Probably not. So, all right, let's go to the other question, which is very interesting. One of someone here adopted a 5-year-old female beagle from the rescue facility, the research facility. I'm guessing it's maybe that big 4,000 dog.
It is.
Okay.
And actually, if you want to go ahead, Jen, and just I don't have to read it for you. Go ahead.
Oh,
and
you're
tell.
so sweet, guys. I so appreciate you taking your time to help people who are in different phases of adoption or fostering. And so, first of all, thank you so much. It's nice to have all the support, and we've rescued a number of dogs and cats, and this is the first adult. So she's an adult female, 5 years old. She was one of the Envigo Beagles. Very sweet. We have a Beagle mix who's 8 years old, a male, and he loves her. I mean, he watches over her. He goes in the crate with her. We know she needed a little decompression time. She was in a foster home before she came to us for 6 weeks. So she learned what grass felt like, and she saw leaves for the first time, and and they did an amazing job. And all has been great. She's wonderful. We take her out on walks, and they play together a lot, but they also spend time apart in the home.
Mhm.
But one thing that we're having some issue with is we take her out 4, 5, 6 times a day. She pees outside, she poops outside, but then she'll come in and pee 3 more times in the house.
Wow.
So we're not sure. Somebody had said possible UTI. She was recently spayed, and sometimes that causes some urinary issues. So I
Mhm.
wanted to get your take on that, if you could help us solve that or work on that issue in a more effective way.
So is she going right away when she comes back in?
No, she is not.
Okay. Okay.
It'll be about
And-
maybe half an hour later, an hour later. It's not right
Okay.
away. She does have water at all times.
Okay.
So,
And does
um,
she have run of the house, or is she confined in a certain area, or?
she's confined on one level of the house, but it's not small.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, we gave her a little too much space too quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would have a urine sample checked just to make sure that she doesn't have a UTI, because that can be an issue.
Okay.
But I think that you might want to start like as if she were a baby puppy, you know,
Okay. Okay.
tethered to you or right where you can supervise directly. And if she looks like she's sniffing around and looking for a spot, run her outside right away.
Okay.
And if you can't supervise her directly, like with your eyeballs on her, then
Yes.
tether her
Yes.
to you, put her in a crate, or put her in an enclosed space. Because I think she
Okay. So
she
if I'm
probably
not,
has that. So
I've been so a little bit anxious about confining her in any way just because of what the life she had. But I
Right.
know it's also the life she had, and in some ways it does give her some security. So I kind of get in my own way, I think,
yeah.
regarding
Well, and
that.
she probably was never house trained, so she really has no idea. So
Yeah.
just start as if she were a brand new baby puppy.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cinder. I
Mhm,
appreciate
absolutely.
that.
Great, and thanks for taking one of those beagles. That's
Yeah.
quite a lot of beagles that needed to
That's
be
a lot of
rehomed,
beagles.
Oh my
coming
goodness.
from a
lot of
tough,
beagles.
tough situation.
It's
It's
a pleasure.
Yeah, great. Are there other questions? Other people want to jump in of our small but mighty crowd here? Anyone about to bring home a new dog?
Anyone have questions about anything else?
I'm wondering, is anybody on right now that's getting a dog from transport on Friday?
I'm
Nope.
picking up a return dog on Sunday, but that may not count. But I don't think, do we have other, I have a couple other fosters on, but Trisha, is Trisha still on? She may have come and gone. Trisha was on, I think she was getting a German Shepherd this Friday.
Yeah, she is. And Trisha's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
I was hoping more new fosters would be on the call.
Oh,
They have questions.
But it's a good topic,
it's a great topic. Thank you.
one that we need to keep talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's hard because if you have a dog whose tail's wagging and the new dog's tail is wagging and they want to meet each other, it's so hard to keep them separate. And it's so hard to not want to bring your dog out to meet people or on the neighborhood, right? It's just, I mean, if the dog's terrified, you might not, but the dogs that look friendly, but
Yeah.
sometimes I've noticed sometimes that, their stress will show itself as hyperactive playfulness,
Mhm.
whatever, like they actually, which makes you think, oh, even my husband, oh, the dog needs another walk, he's really hyper. I'm like, I think the dog needs to go in the crate and take a nap.
Nap
And
Oh,
he's
that's
learning that.
interesting. That's an
Yeah,
interesting
so I've
observation.
had 3 or 4 fosters in a row that get really hyped up and if they've had some exercise, what they actually need is they can't control their own impulses. So you put them in the crate and they're like, oh, okay, I'll check, and then they bark for a minute, and then they're like, oh, so it's like they actually, and I'm wondering, well, your beagle, maybe if they're like freedom may actually be more than they know what to do with.
Maybe
right?
more stressful. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
true.
like we think they don't want it, but if that's where, if that's what helps you, like with a toddler, like you kind of gotta,
Right.
Yeah.
get them. So
They get overstimulated and they can't tone themselves down, and kind of have to say, okay, you're obviously over the top, time for a nap.
Yes. That's funny. I'm a preschool teacher, so that definitely rings well with me. Look,
so
this
you could
is my other dog is sleeping in her crate.
Aww. Yeah, I noticed
it's-
when I had teenagers and toddlers that they're basically the same.
right.
I agree.
I had teens and toddlers at the same time, and it was like, okay, you're overtired, you're too hungry, you need to settle down.
That's so true.
Yeah. So
Well,
thanks
I
for
do have to go. I thank you so much.
Sure.
Means a lot
Great.
to me that you guys devote your time to these animals. They deserve it.
They do. That they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions from anybody else? If not, we can end. It's almost 8 o'clock actually. So, Cinder, do you need any suggestions for future topics from the group?
Yeah, if anybody has any suggestions, speak up or email, or just let us know somehow, because I would love suggestions. I want to talk about what people want to hear. So
Good. And remember, if anyone needs help, training at ophrescue.org will get you to Cinder and other trainers who can help with your OPH dog. Any final thoughts from anyone? Okay, well, thank you, Cinder. Thanks everyone for joining us. And
Thanks,
we
everybody.
will reconvene in about a month.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
We'll see you